Hey everybody, how are you doing tonight? Welcome, 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 welcome. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. We are going and we are going strong, and we're going to keep going, and we're not going anywhere. That's how we're going. We are going, we are going, we are going, everybody. I'm so glad to be here. I'm so glad to be here with all of you. A lot is happening in the world. There's a lot of things for us to talk about. I've already got a super chat. People on the left, why do they bash Putin, Russia over Ukraine? All right. Okay. Okay, and we're doing great here, folks. It's going to be a great show tonight. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. Please hit that notifications bell. We're now streaming on Rockfin. We are on Rockfin, and yeah, folks, we're doing this. We're doing this. We're going strong. We are going strong, and now we're going to play the opening.
Spoken of the American century. I say that the century on which we are entering can be and must be the century of the common man.
A radical redistribution of economic power.
I mean, we know that racism is just a byproduct of capitalism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people.
We need a government that will make sure Americans are taken care of and organize the economy to serve the people, not the profits of a wealthy few.
We now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty.
We got to start getting out there with the people.
Get out of the movement and get to the masses.
We need a government of action.
All right. Welcome, everybody. It is a wild, wild time to be alive. And the work that we do here on this YouTube channel, the work of the Center for Political Innovation, the work of anti-imperialist voices, patriotic socialists, has never been so important. And there is so much disinformation and propaganda coming out of mainstream US media right now. And there's so much we have to talk about. I don't even know where to begin, but we are going to begin. We are going to jump right into it. We're going to jump right into it. Thank you. Thank you very much for that super chat. Super chats are always appreciated. The way it'll work tonight is I will give my opening remarks. My opening remarks will then be followed by the roll call and names and locations. I'll call folks out as I see them, names and locations, names and locations. And then from there, we will go ahead from there to at that point, answer your super chat questions. And from then we'll be done. And there's a slim chance we may open it up tonight. D-Nazify Ukraine. All right. Right. We may open it up tonight and let some people hop in depending on how the stream goes. So stay tuned. I may open it up tonight and let people hop on with their webcams if they want to chat with me, speak to me directly. We'll see how that goes. May happen, may not happen. I would like to do it. It's always fun. But there you go. So we may do that. We may not. But it's going to be a great show tonight regardless. We got a lot of things to talk about. So if there's something you want me to talk about in the second half of the show, shoot me a super chat. Always appreciated. And yeah, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, crush that notifications bell. Let me also add that tomorrow night, well, not tomorrow night, in 2 nights, it will be the 1st of March. And the 1st of the month is when I always do my patrons only stream for people that are only members of the Patreon community. So if you're part of the Patreon community, you can be part of it. So if you want to sign up on Patreon, go ahead and sign up and support us on Patreon, and you can be part of that stream. You get a free copy of the books that we published. Zizek's recent comments on Putin. And you get a free copy of the books that we put out, the Center for Political Innovation books, and you get to be part of everything we do here. You get to be on patrons only streams. So that's always fun. If you want to get on Patreon, we always want to let people do that. So welcome everybody. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. So I'm going to start out with a couple things, just a couple things, just a couple clips here. The first one is just classic mainstream American media. Now, if you're a younger one, you may not know the name Condoleezza Rice. That name may not be familiar to you. Condoleezza Rice was George W. Bush. She was a figure within the George W. Bush administration. I believe she was Secretary of State for George W. Bush. She was an advisor in the George W. Bush administration. Before that, she was a very prominent neoconservative. And this morning, they decided to have her on one of the Fox News talk shows to talk about what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. And so Fox News Sunday had Condoleezza Rice, a very prominent figure within the Bush administration. They had her get on the Fox News talk show to give her opinion. Now, this is what happened, and this should make you want to slap yourself in the face right now. This is what she said. This is the exchange that we saw on Fox Sunday morning with the great Condoleezza Rice of the Bush administration.
I have argued that when you invade a sovereign nation, that is a war crime. I mean, I think we're at just a real basic point there.
Well, I'd agree. It is certainly against every principle of international law and international order, and that's why throwing the book at them now in terms of economic sanctions and punishments is also a part of it. And I think the world is there. Certainly NATO is there. He's managed to unite NATO in ways that I didn't think I would ever see again after the end of the Cold War.
Really?
Yeah. So this is Condoleezza Rice of the Bush administration. This is somebody who went around claiming that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction when they didn't, and justified the United States invading Iraq, a sovereign country. That's what she did when she was in the Bush administration. She went around and built the case for war. She made up, lies that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction when they didn't. She laid the basis for the USA invading a sovereign country called Iraq. The United Nations told the United States not to invade Iraq. NATO didn't even agree with the USA invading Iraq. But George W. Bush built his coalition of the willing, and they invaded Iraq and overthrew the Ba'athist Arab Socialist government with the support of nobody, basically. France wasn't with them. I guess Britain supported them. That was it. A unilateral invasion of a sovereign country was carried out by the United States in 2003. Hundreds of thousands of people died. NATO even said not to do it. The United Nations Security Council said don't do it. They did it anyway. And then she, after having destroyed Iraq, she goes on Fox News. And the host says to her, well, the invasion of a sovereign nation is a war crime. And she's like, oh, yeah, totally. What she did. And you have to keep in mind, Condoleezza Rice, she wasn't like a passive participant in the USA invasion of Iraq. Oh, no. And in fact, when there was a lot of fighting that went on, when Israel was attacking Lebanon, and there was a lot of, casualties going on in Iraq, she gave a speech, and she famously called all the death that she was seeing in Iraq, she called it the birth pangs of a new Middle East. And that she said that the invasion of Iraq was going to set the stage for a wave of democracy and modernization in the Middle East, and that the invasion of Iraq and the deaths and Israel invading Lebanon, all this death that was happening. I mean, I remember this, 2006, the year I graduated from high school. The USA had been in Iraq for a number of years, dead bodies everywhere, and Israel's attacking Lebanon, and it was awful. And she's, amid all this violence, Condoleezza Rice came out and said, it's the birth pangs of a new Middle East. She was supporting all of it. And now, This person with so much blood on her hands, this person who lied us into a war, this person who unilaterally invades a country, now she has the gall to get on TV and say, oh, yes, Putin's invading a sovereign country. It's a war crime. Yes, and we got to throw the book at him. We got to punish him. Can you believe this? Can you believe this? And was there nobody watching? Was there nobody in the studio who said, maybe don't say that to her? I mean, this is how ridiculous American media has gotten since this whole thing began. It's gotten absolutely ridiculous. And don't say I don't criticize the right wing, because that's Fox News. Tucker Carlson, when it comes to foreign policy, he does some good stuff sometimes. That's Fox News Sunday, where they let Condoleezza Rice lecture us about how you can't invade a sovereign country. You want to talk about hypocrisy? That's great hypocrisy. But now I'm going to take aim at the left, at BreadTube. All right? Because folks, I've been right about a lot of things. I have been right about a lot of things, right? I was right about Kamala Harris. I had Kamala Harris's number from the beginning. I wrote a whole book examining her psychology. I told you this is a wicked woman who destroyed the lives of people, a criminal prosecutor who was vicious and sadistic, who made a point of trying to put people behind bars, tried to execute an innocent man. I told you all about Kamala Harris. I told you that she was not well psychologically, that she was a sadistic narcissist. And now everything I've said about Kamala Harris has turned out to be true. Her staffers have quit in droves. They've talked about the vicious criticism she subjects her staff to, how she refuses to prep for interviews, how, basically she just does whatever she wants and fails over and over again. I told you about Kamala Harris. Well, I was right about Kamala Harris. And then I wrote a book called BreadTube Serves Imperialism. Do you remember this? It was all about how I thought that BreadTube most likely was getting support from American intelligence. It was a fake socialist operation to manipulate the socialist movement to be pro-imperialist. That's what I wrote. And a lot of people laughed at that, and they said, oh, that's stupid, that's retarded. And then we now have the smoking gun, Abigail Thorne, being paid by British intelligence and being paid by foundations tied to the British royal family to make, propaganda about COVID and the vaccine. And we had Steve Hassan. I told you about Steve Hassan, the cult expert who was advising them, who has a long, pattern of ties to American intelligence, Robert J. Lifton and other things. And I told you that BreadTube serves imperialism. And now it should be blatantly obvious that BreadTube serves imperialism. It should be blatantly obvious that BreadTube serves imperialism, because they're all lining up behind the Ukrainian nationalists right now. There are very few BreadTube voices, few and far between, that are not completely on the side of the Ukrainian right wing at this point. It is particularly amazing how much the BreadTubers are doubling down and supporting imperialism. Furthermore, I recently warned you all about the Party of Socialism and Liberation and Brian Becker. And I told you, I actually wrote a whole document about Marxism and late Marxism and why the Marxyites are failing. And then they did it. PSL denounced the so-called invasion. So I tend to be right about these kind of things. I was right about Kamala Harris. I was right about BreadTube. Now I'm right. Once again, I'm right about PSL. But the second point about BreadTube, you guys have no idea, because what is one of the things that BreadTube is all about? Canceling people, calling people Nazis, right? Everyone gets accused of being a Nazi by BreadTube. They love to call people Nazis. Everyone's a Nazi, right? If you disagree with them, you're a Nazi. Trump supporters, working class people who support Trump, they're all Nazis. If you're a leftist and you support Russia or China, according to Vosh, according to Thought Slime, you're a Nazi. Everyone's a Nazi. I'm a Nazi because I'm supposedly a Nazi because I sat next to Alexander Dugin. Even though Alexander Dugin is not a Nazi and has denounced fascism as well as communism, he follows the fourth political theory. But because I met him one time in my life, I am a Nazi, right? Anyone who supports China and questions their allegations about Uyghurs, well, that's the same as Holocaust denial, so you must be a Nazi. This is the game they play. Everyone's a Nazi. Everyone's a Nazi, right? Everyone's a Nazi. Everyone's a Nazi. If you disagree with them, you deserve to be punched in the face, beaten up on the street, banned from leftist circles. Silencing anti-imperialists is the new Antifa. That's the way these people argue. Everyone's a Nazi. Everyone's a Nazi. That's how these people argue. And they do this to serve imperialism, right? If you question allegations about Uyghurs, if you question, human rights propaganda against some anti-imperialist country, if you don't simply go along with it, you are a Nazi. That's how they put it. You're a Nazi. Everyone's a Nazi. I've been called Nazi by these people so many times. Vosh on his streams has said, Caleb is a literal Nazi. Why? Because I disagree with him about China and Russia, right? So that's what they do. They're all about everyone's a Nazi. They've got this whole encyclopedia. ContraPoints made this video about the secret hand signs. If someone shakes hands this way, they're a Nazi. If someone shakes hands that way, they're a Nazi. If someone uses this phrase, they're a Nazi. It's this whole obsession. The U.S. government is supposed to be infiltrated by all these Nazis. There's Nazis everywhere. And this is BreadTube's obsessed with Nazis. But now we have a situation where there are actual Nazis right in front of our face, and BreadTube is supporting them. I've never seen anything like it. These are the people that are constantly accusing everybody who disagrees with them of being a secret Nazi. There's a secret Nazi conspiracy. And we have a situation where in Ukraine, there are Nazis right in front of our faces. Right in front of our faces. And they support them. If anyone deserves to be canceled according to their own standards, I can't think of anybody. These people they're blatantly supporting Nazis at this point. Folks, in Ukraine, there is an official division of the military. It's not a group of people, on their own. It is an official division of the Ukrainian military called the Azov Battalion. They are aligned and consider themselves to be the continuers of the tradition of the Ukrainian collaborators with the Nazis, Stepan Bandera and his armed force. They wear on their arms, the lightning bolts, the Nazi lightning bolts. They're an official division of the Ukrainian military. Some of the people fighting Russia in Ukraine right now are actually Nazis, and BreadTube supports them. Meanwhile, in Lviv, which is a city located in western Ukraine, they have an anti-Semitism themed restaurant. Now, I know this sounds too horrible to be true, but they actually have a restaurant that is built on the ruins of a synagogue where they have non-Jewish people who dress up like Orthodox Jews. And they serve you food in this restaurant, and there's no prices on the menu. You barter with the staff, right? You barter with the staff because that's the anti-Semitic stereotype. It's unbelievably offensive. They have an anti-Semitism themed restaurant in Ukraine. They have an official Nazi division of the Ukrainian military. Okay, but it gets better. In Ukraine, they have torn down many World War II memorials. Now, can you think of anything more Nazi than going to a World War II memorial and saying, what, all these people who fought the Nazis, they shouldn't have a memorial? They are tearing down World War II memorials, and BreadTube supports them. BreadTube supports people who tear down World War II memorials, people who build anti-Semitic restaurants that are anti-Semitic, right? And number three, on top of that, they have an official Nazi division of their military, and BreadTube still supports them. But that's not all. Now, this just takes the cake. This was on BBC, on British state television, the state propaganda arm of British imperialism. They were interviewing a top Ukrainian prosecutor. And I'm going to show you what he said. This is an actual clip from British television. This is on air.
Sorry, it's very emotional for me because I see European people with blue eyes and blonde hair being killed, children being killed every day with Putin's missiles and his helicopters and his rockets.
And so, of course, I understand and respect the emotion.
Did you hear what he just said? Let's play that one more time. This is the former general prosecutor of Ukraine being interviewed on British broadcasting on BBC.
Sorry, it's very emotional for me because I see European people with blue eyes and blonde hair being killed, children being killed every day with Putin's missiles and his helicopters and his rockets.
And so, of course, I understand and respect the emotion. What you are outlining there is this tension between longer-term efforts to apply pressure to Vladimir.
One more time. Let's review what the people BreadTube are supporting are saying right now. Let's review it one more time.
It's very emotional for me because I see European people with blue eyes and blonde hair being killed, children being killed every day with Putin's missiles and his helicopters and his rockets.
And so, of course,
wow. So this guy is basically, they're asking him how he feels about the war. And he's like, oh, yes, a bunch of good Aryan people with blonde hair and blue eyes, people from the master race are being killed. That's what he's saying. I mean, it's like, can you make it more obvious? I mean, this is unbelievable. Yes, people with exactly the right complexion, white people with blonde hair and blue eyes, members of the master race are being killed. And it makes me very sad. I mean, holy crap. This is who BreadTube is supporting. And they want you to think I'm a Nazi because I don't? I mean, I just want to slap these people. This is a Nazi government they've got in Ukraine. And then my favorite. This is my favorite argument. This is my greatest one. So Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, he's Jewish. And so based on that, many people have said, oh, they can't be Nazis in Ukraine. There must not be any Nazis in Ukraine because Zelensky is Jewish. These people have been threatening to overthrow Zelensky for a long time. And Zelensky can't control them. And that is why we have had a situation where Putin has come forward and said maybe he would prefer to negotiate directly with the military because it appears Zelensky isn't really in control of the country. The ultra-nationalist elements that run the military, they are the ones who really have the power in Ukraine, it appears, right? That Zelensky is just a figurehead, and these people have been threatening to overthrow him, etc. And so this is who BreadTube is supporting. This is who BreadTube is supporting. They are supporting a government that has an official Nazi battalion with, according to some reports, has 125,000 fighters. Some people are like, oh, well, it's really small. It's only 1,000 fighters. Doesn't matter. Does not matter. It's an official wing of the military. This isn't a group of people who feel this way. An official wing of the military. They have made a Nazi group an official wing of their military, number one. Number two, they have a restaurant in Lviv on the ruins of a synagogue dedicated to anti-Semitism, an anti-Semitic themed restaurant, basically. Number two. Number three, they are destroying World War II memorials, tearing down memorials to people who fought in the Second World War. And number four, just to top it all off, the general prosecutor of the country just got on TV and said he's really sad about the war because, European people with blonde hair and blue eyes are dying. Oh my God. And they all support him. Thought Slime supports him. Vosh supports him. All of them. Name the BreadTuber. They all support it. Xander Hall, H-Bomber guy, ContraPoints. They all support these Nazis. The same people that have been doing this stupid witch hunt for years about this person shook hands with this person who once said this. Same people that have been engaging in this stupid cancel culture campaign against me, against Max Blumenthal, against Jackson Hinkle, against all these people. The same people that have been engaging in this stupid cancel culture. They've gone after Peter Coffin. They've gone after Haas. These same people that have been waging this stupid, based on nothing. You're a transphobe because you talk to somebody. They are openly supporting the most obvious white supremacists right now. And we're supposed to just go, oh, okay. How do these people get, Surfing USA, that clown supports them. All these people, all of them are supporting Nazis right now. They're supporting Nazis. And these are the same people that want to cancel us. I mean, this is unbelievable. And if you don't see the hypocrisy, and if you don't realize what I told you in my book, which is BreadTube serves imperialism, that these people are not honest actors. These are deceptive people with malintent who are serving the imperialists. If you don't realize that right now, I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say, because it's proof. I mean, it's right before our eyes, right there. These people that are, think that basically, anyone who disagrees with them, they immediately start trying to find a way to prove you're a secret Nazi. And then there's blatant Nazis and they support them. These people are liars. They are pro-imperialist shills, okay? And we have to be clear about that. BreadTube serves imperialism. BreadTube serves imperialism. And that's just a reality of the situation. You cannot get any more blatant than that. So I just wanted to show those two clips. Because, Condoleezza Rice, such hypocrisy. And then on top of that, we've got, a Ukrainian prosecutor who's revealed himself to basically be a white supremacist. And the hypocrisy can't get any more blatant. But folks, I want to just talk right now about how difficult it is to be an anti-imperialist. It's very difficult to be an anti-imperialist. It's difficult to be an anti-imperialist right now because we are surrounded with a barrage of deceptive fake news. They are taking clips from Libya and saying that it's Russian atrocities in Ukraine. They're taking clips from Syria and saying it's Russian atrocities in Ukraine. They've gone as far as taking clips from video games. I kid you not, video games. And they're claiming that it's Russian atrocities in Ukraine. The internet is full of just fake news right now. They had this story about the people on Snake Island, the 13 soldiers of Snake Island. That was completely debunked. I mean, fake news is just flooding the media right now. And when the dust clears, we're going to be proven right, like we always are. Saddam Hussein was not ripping the babies from the incubators. Iraq did not have weapons of mass destruction. Gaddafi was not handing out, Viagra to help his soldiers rape women. We're going to be proven right, okay? And we're always proven right. We are always proven right. And they are always proven wrong. That's how it works, right? That's how it works. However, right now, we have to be able to knuckle down and get through the hard stuff, right? That's what we have to do. We have to get through the hard stuff because right now they're whipping up anti-Russian hysteria. And we have to get through it. We have to get through it. And we just have to white knuckle it. We have to get through it. And we have to know, we have to be tough. We have to realize what it's like to be the one person who stands against all of it. And that's okay. And I just wanted to share with you all a couple things because it's difficult. This is not an easy stand to take. But if there's ever a time to take a stand, it's now. It's now. And the reason that we must take a stand now is because of the fact that at the end of the day, we're never going to be able to out whiz-bang the ruling class, right? BreadTube and, fake socialists and the ruling class, they're always going to be able to have sexier media than we have. They're always going to be able to print fancier books than we have. The reason that we have got to stand firm right now is because we have one thing. We have one thing going for us, which is that we fight for the people. We fight for the American working families who are losing their jobs, losing their homes, losing their schools. We're fighting for the people whose water isn't properly purified. We're fighting for people in neighborhoods where the roads are not properly paved and are falling apart. We're fighting for people whose kids are suffering from opioid addiction after Big Pharma pushed doctors to overprescribe opioids. We're fighting for people who are dealing with the prison industrial complex, who are worried about, seeing their young children or their relatives locked in jail for the rest of their lives. We're fighting for Americans who've got relatives in the military who are very, very worried, very, very worried that their you know, that their relatives might be sent to go get shot in Ukraine to help out the Azov battalion. We are fighting for the American working class. That's who we're fighting for. We are fighting for the people of this country, black, brown, Asian, Arab, Latino, white. We're fighting for the people of this country against the big corporations and against the monopolies. That's who we're fighting for. And if we are going to get them to trust us, if we are going to get the people of this country to trust us, we can't look like cowards. We can't look like wimps. We can't look like punks. We can't look like pushovers. We can't look like people who just cower and fade away in the face of all of this. We have to look like we stand for something. We have to look like we have strength. We have to look like we are people who will lead them into battle and lead them to victory. That's what we have to look like. And that is why PSL, that is why the Communist Party USA, that is why all the groups that are punking out right now, yes, I said that, punking out right now, all the political organizations that are punking out right now will fail. And that is why we will emerge and stay strong. Because if you right now, and I'm seeing this all over the place, right? There's a lot of people that are just blatantly supporting Ukrainian Nazis. But then what I'm seeing a lot of, PSL did this, the Party of Socialism and Liberation, they did this. And they came out and they wrote this statement about, you know, saying a lot of what's true about NATO. But then they said, but we oppose this invasion. Don't worry, we oppose this invasion. Right? The Communist Party did the same thing. They wrote statements about NATO escalation, but we oppose what Putin is doing. And I believe Joe Sims of the Communist Party USA actually criticized on a YouTube stream. He actually criticized members of his own party for being too tough on NATO, right? And that this is the game people like to play. This is the game people like to play. Is they want to be able. They think that somehow, this is what Kyle Kalinske did when he was attacking me. They think that somehow they gain credibility by going, well, I'm against Russia too. Oh, I'm against Russia too. You know, I'm against Russia too. But, you know, the United States is also bad, but I'm against Russia too. You know, I'm balanced. I can see both sides. Russia's doing bad things too, but let's talk about America and what they're doing bad. And oh boy, no one respects people like that. And if you want the working families of this country to stand behind you, to rally behind you against the big corporations and monopolies, you can't talk that way. You cannot look like a punk. You can't look like a punk. Now, to be fair, you shouldn't be celebrating what is happening right now. People are dying. This is a horrible war. A lot of people are suffering, so we shouldn't be cheering, right? We can say that Russia is right. We can say that this isn't an invasion, but we shouldn't be cheering. Right? A lot of people are getting hurt, and that's not good. But if you're calling this an invasion, if you're saying, well, we oppose Russia also, like Russia's bad, but America is bad too, then you're being a punk. Don't be a punk, because we're going to be proven right, because we're already being proven right. Thousands of fake videos have already gone out. Videos from Syria, videos from Libya, video games. They've got videos of what the Ukrainians have done to Donetsk and Lugansk, and they're trying to pass them off as if it's videos of Russia hurting people. All kinds of fake news is going out there. We are going to be proven right. We've already basically been proven right. We've been proven right. However, if we cower right now, if we give in right now, if we try to both sides it right now, we look weak. We look like punks. We look like cowards. Folks, This is not an invasion. This isn't an invasion. An invasion would be trying to colonize or take over Ukraine. Russia says that is not what they are doing. They are protecting the Donetsk People's Republic. They are protecting the Lugansk People's Republic. And they are dismantling the Ukrainian military. And they are right to do that. They waited 8 years to recognize the republics where our comrades, communists, are in power now. They waited 8 years to recognize them. They waited 7 years for the Minsk agreements to be implemented to integrate these folks back into the government of Ukraine. They didn't want to recognize them. That's the most crazy thing about this. If Russia was trying to take over Ukraine, they would have immediately recognized the Donetsk and Lugansk republics. They didn't do that. Instead, they supported the Minsk agreements, which would have integrated Lugansk and Donetsk back into Ukraine. And they waited for 7 years for Ukraine to implement the agreements, and they didn't do it, and they didn't do that. They didn't do that. Ukraine did not implement the Minsk agreements. And then, to top it all off, we saw the United States out of nowhere announce to the world, Russia's about to invade Ukraine and whip up hysteria. And the whole time Russia's going, wait, no, we're not. Why do you think that? We're not going to invade Ukraine. You know, these military operations we do in Belarus, we do them every year. Like, this is like Russia's saying they're not going to invade Ukraine. In order to appease the United States, Russia started moving its troops away from the border. And then at that moment, at that very moment, when Russia was moving its troops away from the border to show the world that they weren't going to invade Ukraine, then the Azov battalion and the Nazis started bombing. They bombed Donetsk and they bombed Lugansk and they unloaded all their shells and they were coming in there to slaughter those people. And Russia said, no, you don't. No, you don't. And Putin got on TV and he recognized Lugansk and Donetsk. And then Lugansk and Donetsk formally requested Russia's intervention. And the Russian army went in. And they went in and they protected those people. And they protected those people. And now they are going in and they are ripping that Ukrainian Nazi military to shreds. And I support them in doing that. They are doing the right thing. And I will not budge an inch. This is not an invasion. This is a D-Nazi operation. This is a security operation that is necessary. And if the Communist Party had been in power, if it wasn't Putin, if it was the Communist Party, this would have happened a long time ago. The communists in Russia are celebrating this. The communists in Russia, the Communist Party led by Zhuganov, Gennady Zhuganov, who I was embedded with during the elections in 2018. I've been to their headquarters and I've met the leader of the Communist Party as well as their presidential candidate, Pavel Grudinin. Folks, if they were in power, this would have happened a long time ago. Russia is doing the right thing, and it's ugly. And I'm sure, there's a lot of fake news going out right now, but at the same time that there's a lot of fake news going out, there's probably real things that have happened that are bad. Bad things happen in war. Atrocities are committed. Innocent people are hurt. But I must say, when they talk about a kindergarten being bombed, they have been bombing kindergartens for 8 years in Donetsk and Lugansk, and U.S. media and CNN haven't said anything about it. They have been bombing kindergartens for 8 years in Donetsk and Lugansk. 8 years. They have a memorial. They actually have a memorial. Do I have the picture? Yes, I do. They have set up this memorial in Lugansk for all the children who have been killed by the Ukrainian fascists. And just because they're not on CNN, because CNN didn't tell these people about it, no one cares about them. Well, Putin cares about them. The Communist Party of Russia cares about them. Nicaragua cares about them. Venezuela cares about them. Iran cares about them. The Houthis care about them. North Korea cares about them. Recognition of these republics is long overdue. Long overdue. The lives of these children matter. And Russia is doing the right thing to try and bring the killing to an end. Can you elaborate? Important to get. All right. Why? All right. And that's all there is to it, folks. And we need to hold the line. We need to hold the line. We need to stand firm and not give an inch on this. Not give an inch, not call this an invasion. Because if we call this an invasion, then that basically is like saying that they were right. And all the hysteria about Russia's going to invade Ukraine. If we start calling this an invasion, then we're saying that they were right. And they weren't right. Russia didn't want this. Russia did not want this. Look at the facts of what went down. Russia was moving their troops away from the border. Russia kept saying we're not going to invade Ukraine. And then the explosions happened. And then we knew what this was about. So don't give an inch. Don't call this an invasion. Don't cower and say, well, you're against what Russia is doing too. We can have sympathy for the people who are suffering. Absolutely. We can oppose all human lives. We can say that we're against war crimes and atrocities, but Russia is doing what is necessary right now. And we've got to hold the line, and we gotta not back down, and people will respect you. People will respect you if you can hold a line like this. If you can hold a line like this, if you can draw a line in the sand and say, nope, Putin has insulated Russia's economy against sanctions. We'll talk about that. If you can hold the line, people will respect you. And it's really important. It's really, really important. Folks, I have been standing against the crowd my whole life. I have been thinking this whole week. I've been thinking about how when I was in high school, I was a freshman in high school in 2003. And we were assigned, well, first of all, right, I'll just talk about this. I went to school in a small town. My graduating class, what was it? It was like 115 people, 130 maybe. It was not a very big town. And I have always loved, history and social studies and, that kind of thing, right? I always loved that. And, my freshman year, every single person who went to this high school had the same history teacher. And she was a former WNBA player, right? She'd played in the WNBA and she didn't teach. She didn't do her job. She was hired to be a basketball coach. She didn't do her job. She just assigned homework at the beginning of the week and we had study hall. We didn't even have a social studies class and I hated it. I absolutely hated it because I was actually interested in learning, but we had a basketball coach instead of a teacher. No lecture, no nothing. She just assigned homework at the beginning of the week because she didn't feel like teaching and she was just an athlete. And I remember that, towards the end of the year, or was it towards the end of the year or towards the middle of the year, every so often they made her do something. So one day she walked in and she's like, okay, I want everyone in the class to draw a political cartoon. That's your assignment for today. And so we drew political cartoons. And, because creativity is lacking and because she didn't care, about half of my social studies class designed the same cartoon. They came, and so the next day we all had to get up and show our cartoon to the class. And about half of my class had the exact same cartoon. And the exact same cartoon. And it was Saddam Hussein with a bunch of weapons behind his back saying, we don't have any weapons. And I remember that. I remember being angry, first of all, that basically everyone was doing the same cartoon, right? So it's plagiarism, whatever. Number one. But number two, I was also angry because, I look back on that and I get even more angry, I guess. I wasn't angry in the moment, but I look back on that because Saddam Hussein didn't have any weapons of mass destruction. So the cartoon was stupid. It was wrong. Saddam Hussein didn't have any weapons of mass destruction. But that's what the media was saying. And people were just going along with the crowd. People were just going along with the crowd, right? Half the class made the same cartoon. Why can't everyone else is making this cartoon? Why not make the same cartoon? Why not have my own idea? Why not investigate and actually learn about politics? Number one. And number two, hey, media says he's got weapons of mass destruction. Why should we question that? And that's what we're seeing right now. Everyone says Putin's a bad guy. Everyone says Putin's invading Ukraine and he's a bad guy. So must be true. Everyone's saying it, right? Well, I remember how everyone said Saddam has weapons of mass destruction and he didn't. And all those 50, that 50% of the class I was in, it was about 30 kids in that class. That would have been about 15 people. They all should be, feel like they were dumb as hell, but they probably don't. They probably don't even care, there you go. There you go. But it gets even better, folks, because my whole life, what have I been told relentlessly my whole life? Communism doesn't work. Did you know that? Communism doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Communism is everyone getting paid the exact same wage. And then there's no incentive for anyone to do any work. And that's why the Soviet Union collapsed. And that's why everywhere that's ever had communism has been poor and starving and miserable, because communism doesn't work. And I heard this my whole life. Communism just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's never worked anywhere. No, everywhere it's ever tried to have communism, it just fails. Human nature just doesn't work. Doesn't work. Never had any successes. Never did communism ever accomplish anything. Oh, no, everyone told me. Everybody knew it, right? Just like with Saddam Hussein having weapons of mass destruction. Everybody knows it. It's just a fact. Communism does not work. It's just a fact. But I got interested in communism because I was interested in the idea of building a more ideal society. So I remember that I went to the public library. And I was interested in maybe there was some form of communism that might work. So I saw that there was a book written by Leon Trotsky. Trotsky was the guy that Stalin had killed, right? So he was against Stalin. He was against Stalin. He was okay. And Stalin killed him. And it was called The Revolution Betrayed. And it was going to explain why Stalin was not following the true revolution or something. So I got this book, The Revolution Betrayed, by Leon Trotsky, from the library. And I opened it up so I could learn about, and thank you very much for the super chat, I could learn about the Soviet Union and why it didn't work or something like that. And the first chapter of that book by Leon Trotsky is called What Has Been Achieved. That is the name of the first chapter of Leon Trotsky's book, The Revolution Betrayed. What has been achieved? And the first chapter is nothing but economic data. It's all about how the Soviet Union is producing more tractors than any other country in the world. How the Soviet Union is producing more steel than any other country in the world. How the Soviet Union is rapidly industrializing the whole country. How the Soviet Union is building this collective farm system that's producing more wheat than any other time in the history of the country. And I'm reading this and I'm like, what? This can't be true. This can't possibly be true, because everybody knows that communism failed everywhere it's ever been tried. And this can't possibly be true. The Soviet Union produced all of this steel and all of these power plants and all of this electricity and all of these tractors. This can't be true. Oh my goodness, this can't possibly be true, because everybody knows that communism just completely failed everywhere it's ever been tried. So then I put down The Revolution Betrayed by Trotsky. And from there, I went to the encyclopedia. Now, people may not know what an encyclopedia is, but before there was Google, there was these things called encyclopedias. And it was like places you could get information, big books. There was a volume for every letter. So I got the Encyclopedia the World Book Encyclopedia, and I turned to their edition on, their section on the Soviet Union. And I read about the Soviet economy. And I read that the Soviet Union did indeed have a lot of economic successes. And they industrialized the country. They raised living standards. And I thought, wait a second. So then I started looking, and I checked, and I read UN statistics, and it was true. What Trotsky wrote in the first chapter of The Revolution Betrayed was true. The Soviet Union raised millions of people out of poverty. The Soviet Union wiped out illiteracy. The Soviet Union electrified the whole country. The Soviet Union produced more steel than any other country in the world. The Soviet Union produced more tractors than any other country in the world. And what I had been told my whole life was a big, fat, fucking lie. And the people who run our country are liars. Not only did communism make the Soviet Union a very powerful country, communism made China the second largest economy in the whole world. Communism is the reason that in Cuba, people live far better than any other peoples in the region, compared to the Haitians, compared to Guatemalans, compared to Jamaicans. The Cubans live very well. They have a very high life expectancy. They've wiped out illiteracy, full employment. Communism, socialism is the reason that under the leadership of Gaddafi, Libya had the highest life expectancy on the African continent. No country in Africa had a higher life expectancy than Libya did when Islamic socialism and Gaddafi was in power. Anti-communism is a big, fat lie. It's a big lie. It's just like those weapons of mass destruction that Iraq didn't have. It's just like those babies that Saddam Hussein was throwing out of incubators, except that never happened. And you know what? Some people say it doesn't matter. They say, well, Caleb, sure. Okay, the Soviet Union, yeah, all right. Everyone wasn't poor and starving. They had some successes. But, can't we distance ourselves from that? No, we can't. Because every debate, this comes up. With Bernie Sanders, what do they say to Bernie Sanders? Oh, he wants to give everyone health care and jobs. Look how well that worked out in the Soviet Union. Actually, it did work out quite well in the Soviet Union. If we can't stand for this history, we have nothing, folks. American imperialism, anti-communism, U.S. foreign policy is based on a big, fat lie. And it's this lie that not only has enabled them to destroy country after country and psych us up to support their wars, but it's also enabled them to destroy this country. Yeah, I mean, look, this country is falling apart right now. The roads are falling apart. Living standards are dropping. Look at the suicide rate among the next generation. Look at the gap in wages between generations. Look at the living standards that are dropping. Communities all across this country are falling apart. And we buy into it. Well, it's always best if the government doesn't do it, right? Privatize it. We have prisons for profit in America. Private companies profit from prisons. Why? Well, it's always better if you have the market, if you have a private company do it, because communism never worked, and it's always better to have the market involved. We have private military contractors in this country. There are private companies that get paid to send people into battle. Right? What could possibly go wrong with that, right? Because it's always better. It's always better when you have a private company do it. We have charter schools, schools for profit. We're taking apart the public education system of the United States and replacing it with schools for profit. What in the world could possibly go wrong with that, right? What could go wrong with that? It's always better if a private company does it. Free to choose, free market. Free markets always lead to the best solution. Communism just doesn't work, and we tried communism. It doesn't work. The Soviet Union never had a single success. These lies are destroying the United States of America just like they're destroying the world. Just like they're destroying the world. And after the Soviet Union fell, The results of the Soviet Union falling in the 1990s was mass suffering, mass death. Life expectancy dropped, living conditions decreased, poverty, human trafficking, drug gangs. In Latin America in the 1990s, devastating effects of neoliberal economics. Meanwhile, China just keeps rising. Meanwhile, when Putin got in and centered Russia's economy around oil and gas, state-controlled energy companies, Gazprom, Rosneft, living conditions got better. Folks, these are just facts. This is just the reality. And we, the working people of the United States, we've been sold a bill of goods. We've been lied to. We've been lied to. We've been hustled. We've been scammed. We've been taken advantage of. And we've been convinced that Wall Street and the Pentagon are our friends, and that Russia and China and Venezuela and Cuba and Iran are our enemies. And that's wrong. Our enemies are on Wall Street. Our enemies are on the Pentagon. Our enemies are the people feeding fake news videos to CNN right now. And Russia is our ally against U.S. imperialism. And that's why they're standing with our comrades in Donetsk and Lugansk. And China is our ally. And that is why they're building the Belt and Road Initiative, building power plants all over the world, and schools and hospitals, and raising countries in Africa out of poverty. And Venezuela is our ally. And Nicaragua is our ally. And Cuba is our ally. And Iran is our ally. And Syria is our ally. The working people of the world and the working people of the United States have a common destiny. We stand in solidarity against the U.S. imperialists. We stand in solidarity against Wall Street and their wars. And that is what we must be absolutely clear about. And that's why in moments like this, when it seems like everyone, I watched a video the other day, and they said the way that it is right now, I said, imagine you're arguing with somebody in a public place who's crying. You can't win, right? Because the person's crying. They're crying, right? They're crying, and you can't argue with them, because if you argue with them, you just look like a bully. You look like such a mean person. Everyone around you is going to go, oh, this poor person's crying, and you're arguing with them. But it's like, you're like, no, but there's facts here about Ukraine and Donetsk. And they're like, no, look, they're crying. They're crying. That's how it's going. I thought it was a great analogy, right? You can't win an argument with somebody who's crying in a public place, because it's like, oh, everyone's going to feel sorry for them. Are you going to bully this poor person who's crying? And that's how this works, right? And that's basically the situation we're in. I thought it was a great analogy that was made, because, right now they're just amping up all of Ukraine's pain. They're ignoring all the pain that has been imposed on Donetsk and Lugansk, for the past 8 years. They're ignoring, the 14,000 people who've been killed. They're ignoring the crimes of the Ukrainian fascists. They're ignoring the majority of Ukrainian people that just want this to end, that don't want to be, NATO's puppet, right? The majority of Ukrainian people don't want to see their country ripped up by the Russian military, and they're not, pumped up. They're not so excited to join NATO. They're willing to let this happen, But, we're all big bullies, and we just have, don't you feel sorry for the people in Ukraine? Yes, I do. I do feel sorry for the people in Ukraine. And I feel sorry that they have had a coup imposed on them, that they have a government that isn't really their government. It's a puppet of the United States and the NATO countries. And I'm sorry that they have leaders that are so cynical. They would throw their lives away just to manipulate oil prices and make the oil prices and the natural gas prices go up. I am sorry that the people of Ukraine have a government that is so loyal to Wall Street and the Pentagon that it would let themselves be pushed into a confrontation with Russia and would let this happen. Yes, I feel sorry for them. I feel sorry for the people of Ukraine. Now, if you love the people of Ukraine right now, you should be mad as hell at NATO. You should be mad as hell at London and Wall Street and the Pentagon. You shouldn't be blaming Putin for this. Putin showed great restraint. He waited 8 years to do this. 8 years they waited. And, they had to do something. I'm optimistic about peace talks. I'm hoping that the peace talks in Belarus can bring a ceasefire. Russia doesn't want to occupy Ukraine. Russia's got their own problems. They've got terrorist groups in the Muslim regions. They've got drug dealers. They've got issues with corruption. Russia doesn't want to occupy Ukraine. They don't want to occupy Ukraine. They're not looking to colonize Ukraine. They've got other stuff going on, okay? They want to make sure there's not a threat on their border. They don't want nuclear weapons from NATO on their border. They don't want a NATO regime loaded with U.S.-made weapons sitting right on their border. They don't want the people of Donetsk and Lugansk to continue getting bombed. They don't want to occupy Ukraine. Ukraine is not a democracy. It's a fascist state sponsored by the 2014 coup. David Fox is absolutely correct about that. Yeah, shutting down media outlets that disagree with them, silencing critics and dissent. This is something I've talked about before, and it bears repeating. It bears repeating. Bears repeating. And I wanted to mention this because it just needs to be said. Needs to be said. Okay? Must be said. Can you imagine if there was some right-wing Trump-supporting governor in New Mexico or Texas or Arizona, and he was racist and he didn't like immigrants, didn't like folks of Latino descent, didn't like folks of Chicano descent, and he passed a law against speaking Spanish. Right? And he passed a law and he's like, no one's going to speak Spanish in my state. We don't like that language. And he actually started giving people tickets, fines, and dragging people into court for speaking their own language. Now, can you imagine the reaction of people to that? We would oppose that because that would be an evil, racist thing to do. And things like that were done in U.S. history, right? Lyndon Johnson, when he was a high school principal in Texas, he used to, paddle children for speaking Spanish. And they talk about how the Native American children, they had their language beaten out of them. But imagine that in our day and age, 21st century, some state passed a law against speaking Spanish and started dragging people to court, arresting people, fining people, writing them tickets for speaking their own language. We would be against that. We would rightly say that's racist, that's unacceptable, that's wrong. However, that is what the government in Kiev has been doing. They are punishing people for speaking Russian. They are writing people tickets for speaking Russian. They are dragging people to court for speaking Russian. And why is it okay? Why is that okay? Why in the world is that acceptable? Right, on top of everything I just told you earlier about the Azov Battalion, about the anti-Semitic restaurants, about tearing down World War II memorials, about what their prosecutor said on BBC. I mean, this is who these folks are supporting. Don't give these people an inch. Don't give these people an inch. Don't give these people an inch. All right, folks. Oh boy, I'm tired and I just found out, I just got a message that I'm going to have to go in pretty early tomorrow, but that's okay, folks. That's okay. That's okay, folks. I think we might actually just open it up a little bit here tonight. I'm feeling brave. It's a little risky, but I might open it up. I'm thinking like I might open it up. I'm going to open it up. So we'll bring a couple people on, not many, not many. I know there's a lot of you watching, but I'm putting the link in the StreamYard right now. Only true democracy is one that gives people true power, the dictatorship of the proletariat. Well, okay, very good. But, I'm posting the link now, the StreamYard link. So if you want to come in and say a few words, you can hop in and say a few words. I'll take five people. We'll take like 5 calls, I think. We'll have 5 people call in. I got to be able to see your face. And, if any funny business happens, I'll just boot you right out. But if 5 people, I'll take 5 people. 5 people want to hop on. We'll have a brief chat. And then we'll do the super chats, and then I got to go home because it turns out I got to get up in the morning. Got to get up early to get back to work in the next morning. But streaming right now is very important. At times like this, it's really important, really, really important. So looks like we got somebody here. We got Brennan. Brennan is here. Brennan, what's happening? Welcome to the show. Then we'll do the super chat. Then I gotta go home. Hey there. You want to mute me on your end? You want to mute me? Yeah, because I can hear my own voice.
Let me just pause this quickly.
All right. What's up, Brennan?
Can you hear me fine?
I can hear you fine. What's on your mind, Brennan?
Fantastic. I just find it disgusting that the media here has been so propagating the Ukraine sentiment. It's been non-stop for like 4 or 5 days now. It's like as soon as you wake up, it's on TV about trying to support Ukraine and trying to condemn Russia almost non-stop the past 5 days here in Australia. And for clarity, I live in Sydney, Australia.
Okay. Yeah, in Australia, I think they've already outlawed RT, right? You know, that's democracy, right? You know, they got BBC, the voice of British imperialism. They got, CNN, the voice of American imperialism, but, no RT, no alternative viewpoint, It's pretty shocking.
And that's absolutely disgusting as well, is that they want to promote, and you have all these experts saying how Putin is so bloodthirsty and a vicious dictator on TV, day in, day out now, that is absolutely ridiculous now at this point.
Absolutely. But we all got to stand strong. We all got to stand strong.
Of course. Stand strong and don't give up no matter what.
Absolutely.
Regardless of what is being said. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, when all the peace treaties comes, the ultimate aims of it will still happen, regardless of what the media will push and regardless of what sanctions will be done. The ultimate aims will be done, and the Kiev terrorists will fall, regardless.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Brennan. It was a pleasure. Next, let's talk with Dimitri. How you doing, Dimitri?
Doing great, Caleb. I'm just glad to finally come on streams again.
Yeah. What's new?
So I wanted to say this on the last stream I was in, but I'm a university student, so what you were saying about a lot of students and even teachers and professors have supposed to think a certain way and not to think outside the box, that's actually true, because one time I was walking to my job in the university, a student job, and it's some people were talking about that Russian-Ukrainian conflict, and one of them, a history student, horribly, it's saying, "Oh, Russia's being unstable and all that. We got to defend Ukraine." Out front, I told her, they're Nazis in Ukraine right now. It's the Azov battalion and all that, and she said was, "Well, I didn't know that." It's but if we sanction Russia, then it'll teach them a lesson. And I said, Russia's got China; they'll be fine. Yep. He's it's undergrad student and all that. But last week on Monday, that was it's not related to the whole Russia-Ukrainian conflict, but it's a whole different thing, with migration. Why are there poor Mexicans moving to the U.S.? The answer is obvious, bad NAFTA policies, the market, the Mexican market was flooded with American food and goods, and it completely pushed the Mexican rural farmers out of business, and they've been farming for generations, you said, right? And that's why they moved. Yeah,
since before Christopher Columbus came, they've been growing their own food. And now, because of U.S. imperialism, they're forced to import most of their food from the United States. It's absolutely a crime, American agribusiness, what they did to Mexico. Well, thank you, Dimitri. It's great to have you on. Salute to you. Stay strong in the university. Yep.
Yes.
Thanks.
Look forward to seeing you in that CPI conference in Austin.
Yeah, March 12th. Be there. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome.
Oh, I look forward to it. Thank you.
All right. So now we got...
Hello.
Hey.
Hello, I'm from Poland. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, but I'm also upset about what's going on. And some interesting thing that you didn't cover up is in border between Polish and Ukraine, where there are racial segregation here, because the people who are black cannot enter country, and also Ukrainian military doing that, because they kicked out black people from the train, for example. So you must cover that also.
Yeah, I've seen some reports about that, about racial discrimination and how there seemed to be, the Ukrainian government is targeting black people in Ukraine. I've heard about that. And again, it's so selective. I mean, the outrage is just very, very selective. But is it difficult to be in Poland to know the truth? Because I know they've suppressed Russian media there. And the Communist Party is illegal in Poland, right? They've outlawed your Communist Party, right?
Yes, they outlawed it. But if, for honest, there are not many communist people and communist parties. So it doesn't matter effectively. And that Communist Party, which were banned, that Communist Party there were old people in that Communist Party. They didn't do anything, and it's not mean anything. I think that ban of Communist Party.
Right. And then years ago, I went to a conference in Iran, and there was a member of parliament from Poland who was there, Mateusz Piskorski. And I believe he was illegally detained, right? They held him in jail for many years just because he was sympathetic to Russia, right?
Mateusz Piskorski.
Yes, I met him. We met at this conference, right? And now he's in Russia in exile, I believe, right? Can you tell us about that?
He's in Poland, but he cannot do anything with his former comrades from the party. He cannot politically engage it any way. But he speak in interviews. There is one communist channel in Poland, in Polish YouTube, Towarzysz Michał, where he give interviews, etc. But these interviews are mostly in Polish, so you cannot possibly understand it. I have a question to you, because you talk that this operation from Russian military is only to protect Donbas, right?
Yeah, sure.
So I don't know why Vladimir Putin said that he wants to denazify Ukraine. That suggests that he wants to replace the government of Ukraine to maybe some government before this coup in 2014.
Well, I think that the issue is that he wants to dismantle the military apparatus that has been harassing the people of Lugansk and Donetsk, right? It's these Azov battalion, this very extreme military that's armed by the United States. That's who's been unfurling these missiles and shellings and, attacking the people of the two regions that declared independence. And he wants to not only, send forces there to protect those regions, but he wants to then go into Ukraine and take that military apart. I think that's what it's about, actually. That's why he's calling it that. That's the intent, right, is to dismantle that military. But they have no intention of occupying the country, of staying there forever, of bringing it into the Russian Federation. That's not what they're doing. And so I think that's an important distinction. But, they're going on the offensive, right? They say the best defense is a good offense. So there you go. But thank you. It was a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you,
and good luck. Thanks for briefing us on the situation in Poland. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, how are you?
I'm good. Hello.
Hey, good. Yeah. What's on your mind tonight?
Just.
Do you want to introduce yourself, by the way? What's your name?
I'm Lexi. I go by Doggo, but you know my girlfriend, so it's I was like, I might as well come on.
Oh, okay.
But
who's your girlfriend?
That's Caleb. Yeah, it is. Jessica.
Hey.
But
oh, okay.
Jessica Hooker says hi, by the way.
Oh, okay. Hey, Jessica. I think I've been your Facebook friend for years. Okay. Very good. Very good.
But it's just really depressing, the shit going on right now. I've lost an entire server, which has nothing to do with politics. An LGBT server of 2K people was hacked and shut down. I lost medical info because of them. I've also lost 22 friends. And at work, I've been called a psyop just for supporting Donetsk. So it's hilarious because it's anywhere I go, I'm hated for having the right opinion. But the thing is, there's slowly a growing movement in this area of the state where the religious people here are with Donetsk because they're Christians. And I think that's hilarious because they're in it for the wrong reason. But I'm go for it.
Yeah.
But,
well, I mean, that's
overall,
one thing that that they've talked about, right, is that I know Texas Bentley or whatever, the individual who is an American who's fighting over there, he always brings up they're Christians and they're communists, right? And that they have some like Christian emblems they take into battle with them. The Donetsk.
Can I share a picture for you, which I thought was funny?
Sure, go ahead. Hold it up.
I gotta get it. It'll be like just a second. The Lenin one where it's like I got God and Lenin on my side.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Well, maybe if you find it, I can bring you back on. I want to bring David Fox on. He's waiting. And I want to bring American Autopsy on. He's also waiting. So why don't you get that together and we'll bring you back on, okay? Once you have the picture, just hold it up and I'll bring you back on.
All right.
David Fox, how you doing?
Yeah, good, brother. Yourself?
I'm good. How are things out in Australia?
Well, it actually is Brennan correctly pointed out. Big shout out to Brennan too in Sydney there. I know him well. I think it's been absolutely disgusting. It's been put through the media here. Well, put it this way, it's not news. It's just propaganda. Actually, when people say, "Oh, save the ABC," which is our public broadcaster, actually, it should be quite correctly the Australian Bullshit Corporation, because reality is, at the end of the day, they're all on it. But also too, what's concerning, I think those of us who normally go out and support the anti-imperialist one, we've got some people have to be very careful of themselves at times, because what we're worried about is being pushed out of our jobs. Also, the other thing as well, being demonised. But the reality, as the end, what's concerning, and I think the truckers' strike in Canada proved that classic example. They can freeze your bank accounts. So there's just some things that keep in the back of the mind. And also, one of the disappointing things, those that call themselves communists and various communist groupings are calling Russia social imperialist or an imperialist power. It's absolutely disgusting what they're coming about. Russia's not requiring other countries to be poor so it can extract wealth to enrich a few. In fact, their economy is far more left-wing than it is, say, in Australia and the US. They've got nationalised industries. They've got government-run industries and everything benefiting the population. So what's interesting, it also flies in the face. It's the Communist Party of the Russian Federation that's taken a great line on this. So if they're talking about international comradeship, they should be actually supporting the position as well. And also, one last thing, is when those people are calling themselves anti-fascist and going out supporting the, stand with Ukraine and all that. Well, that's not ironic. So you're anti-fascist, but at the same time supporting fascists.
Yeah. I mean, it's shocking to me. It's just these people are basically just allies of the imperialists, and it shows the need for us to get out of the movement, get to the masses. And so, thank you, David Fox. You're great.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Yeah. All right, and we got American Autopsy. Bendu, how you doing?
Hey, Caleb, I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm good. Good to talk to you. What's new? What's on your mind tonight?
Man, the Russia-Ukraine situation is on my mind a lot, man. I've honestly, I've been following your coverage, Jackson Henkel's coverage, Max Blumenthal's and the Gray Zone's coverage, and just, have, as well as having my own 2 cents on it as well. It's just very crazy to see the levels. Like, this is like WMD levels of propaganda that we're seeing right now. Like, I was young when that happened. I'm around 24, 25 years old, so I was young when that first happened. But seeing it in real time is like, it's unbelievable. Like, like you said, they're using video game footage and some things. They're like showing Libya. I'm like, dude, I've like been studying Libya and Syria, the wars. That's Libya that you're showing right now. Like my and one of my friends, my homies, he's like supposedly a Marxist and a Leninist and everything like that. He's like running around calling Russia imperialist. And I've just been citing like, well, you call yourself a Marxist and a Leninist, you clearly haven't read Lenin, because Lenin talks about how imperialism, like, it's the highest form of capitalism. So like, it's ridiculous that you're calling Russia that, because Russia's not doing what he described in that, what I've read. I've actually just ordered that book since you talked about it on the stream. So, but just the levels of propaganda, and it's disgusting. And like you said, it's like if the person crying in public, you can't argue with that person because everybody's like, like they're crying, but it's like, look, I'm one of those people. Look, I understand that you're crying, but like, not to, quote Ben Shapiro in a good way, but facts don't care about your feelings. I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah. No. And I mean, these are the times where it's very hard, but it also shows how important channels like this and the community that we can have is, because we can support each other. It's much easier to hold the line and stand strong when you got comrades. And that's why the Center for Political Innovation is important. And that's why we're building this organization so that people can have the support to take these tough positions when they need to. That's kind of my feeling. But how are things? I want to go. You invited me to go on your channel, and I would like to do it soon. I have not been as busy as I am in years right now. I'm quite busy. I mean, it's just working around the clock, but I would like to come on your channel. So I would like to go on American Autopsy. Let's be in touch. I got your email, and let's make a time that I can come on your channel and we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Sound good?
Yes, sir. I'll shoot you an email and work it out and everything. And that's one of the things I'm going to be talking about tonight. I'm actually, I've been fired up because I was at my mom's house in DC. That's why I'm in my car right now. And she had the mainstream media on. I was like, oh yeah, when I get home tonight, I'm doing, when I get back home, I'm doing a stream tonight about this. So I'm fired up about it, man. It's insanity. It's pure insanity.
Well, thank you very much. And best wishes to you. All right. Thanks.
Thank
yep.
you.
All right. And let's see if, did you find the picture? You find the picture to show us?
Yes, I found the picture. Sorry, I was looking away. It's in the private chat. Or do you want me to post
it's in the private chat. Okay. Well, I don't know if I can.
I'll put it in
I don't know. Can you share a screen? Can you just share your screen and show it to us?
How do I do that? Is there a button for that?
There should be a share screen button. Yeah, share, and then there we go. Or no, that's Anthony. Are you Anthony? No, you're not Anthony. Okay. All right. Well,
it's right there in the actual YouTube chat as well.
Yeah, but I can't do that. But all right. Well, why don't you? I mean, can you show it to us on a phone?
Fuck.
Okay. Well, we'll get it another night. But
yeah,
we'll get it another night, or I can tweet it out or something. But thanks for coming on. Best wishes to both you and Jessica. All my best wishes. Thank you very much. Thanks. All right, cool. And it looks like we got one more person here, but they're loading. I'm not seeing a face. I'm not seeing a face, so maybe not. We got one more person. There's somebody coming on, Anthony, but I'm not seeing a face, so maybe it's not loading. All right, folks. Well, why don't we do the roll call, and then I'll answer these super chats, and then I'll get going. So roll call, names and locations. I will call you out as I see you. Names and locations. Who's with us tonight? Names and location. Anybody? So there we go. Yeah, there's one guy who I'm not going to let in, because, whatever. But anyway, but that's how it works. But, there you go. Names and locations, folks. I'll call you out as I see you. We got Nashville, Tennessee, David in China, St. Petersburg, Florida, Susan from Rhode Island, Silver Spring, Maryland, Alabama, Alan in Utah. We got St. David's, Bermuda, Kim in New Jersey, Terre Haute, Mo in Toronto, JT24 in Mississippi, Dario from Brooklyn. We got Dylan Small in California. Great guy. We got Nadia in East Harlem, NYC, Moppin' Time in Scotland. We got Brad in St. Louis. We got Matt from the Catskills, Max from the Catskills. We got New Jersey, Roscoe Dash. We got Ryan in Oakland, David Fox in Bendigo, Australia, Rice from Adelaide, Australia. We got Daniel in California. We got Shia from Montreal. We got John Whitty in Houston. We got Dan from India, Kendall in San Diego. We got Carolyn from Staten Island. We got Cleveland, Pirate Alex. We got Hugo in the Netherlands. Wow, good stuff here. Who else do we have here? We got Mohsen from Iran, Lex and Crystal in Austin. Great stuff. We got Dorian from Northeast Los Angeles. We got Jay Scott from Wakanda, right? That's in the Black Panther movie. Micah from Las Vegas. We got Harold Sullivan in Naples, Florida. Kathy in Massachusetts. Melbourne, Australia. We got Michael out between the Lower East Side and Midtown Manhattan. Shout out to you, Michael. I hope we can get together soon. Lockport, New York. Daniel from India. Auckland, New Zealand. Maple in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. We got Harold in Illinois. Cardiff in Wales. We got Northern Michigan. OP from Florida. We've got Leo and Mimi from Puebla, Mexico. Hugo from the Netherlands. Joe Gale in Nassau County. Full support to Donbass. Hi from Portugal, says Kiba. right? Calumet, Michigan, Dave. We got Jason in Tampa, Florida, Salvador Allende in Ecuador, Mindanao to Midwest, Olympia Logic, Kendall from San Diego, Martin in Ireland, New Brunswick, Canada, Belfast, Ireland, Claudia from Canada. Oh, my goodness. Patty O'Leary out in Joshua Tree. We got Cardiff, Wales. Marissa from Olympia, Washington is with us. We got Maryland, County of Cochise, right? Brian from Philadelphia, Seattle, Cervantos in Seattle, William Kane, Gabby in Chicago, Samuel Netton in Chicago, Brian Schaefer in Illinois. Good stuff. Good stuff, folks. Good stuff. All right. All right, folks. We're going to quickly go through these super chats. And then I am going to have to call it a night because I'm going to have to be at work early tomorrow again. But that's okay because we are standing strong against imperialism. So next question. Why do some people hate NATO yet bash Putin over Russia and Ukraine? Again, they are cowering. They're trying to gain credibility. They think that if we gain something by giving an inch, right? If we admit something about the imperialist narrative is correct, then people will listen to us. Wrong. Doesn't work that way. You give them an inch, they take a mile. We're not going to look weak. Russia is makes perfect sense. It is completely logical and completely necessary. It's awful. War is hell, but Russia is in the right here, and that's how it works. And you don't gain anything by doing that. What does denazify Ukraine mean? It means taking apart that Ukrainian military, those U.S.-made weapons, those lethal weapons that the USA has supplied to Ukraine to attack the peoples of Donetsk and Lugansk have got to be dismantled. They've got to give up their U.S.-made weapons. The best defense is a good offense. Not only are they protecting Donetsk and Lugansk, but they're ripping up that military. They're moving in. They are moving in fast, and it's necessary. I have not seen Slavoj Žižek's recent comments on Putin. I'm sure they are not what we are expecting. Žižek does this thing where he always tries to say what people do not expect him to say. So I'm sure whatever Žižek is saying, it's something that no one is expecting him to say. He says weird things about Stalin, about China, etc. But I'll have to look into it, Chaya. Why should the American working class support Russia? Because support for Russia and support for China and support for the anti-imperialist countries and opposition to Wall Street walk hand in hand. What the imperialists are doing around the world and what they are doing to America and the working class of America are the same. They are trying to grind us all into poverty. They are trying to lower the population. They are trying to set the stage for their high-tech, low-wage economy. The problem of overproduction and the tendency of the falling rate of profit and the general law of capitalist accumulation, the way that they plan to resolve it is by canceling millions of working people, by lowering consumption, reducing consumption, lowering the population. They are Malthusian. They are vicious. They don't have a place for us in the global assembly line any longer. And in order to keep their profits rolling in, they have decided to engage in this kind of activity. And that is why it is necessary. You can't talk about fighting Wall Street and repeat and help them colonize Eastern Europe. You can't talk about fighting Wall Street and support their hypocritical anti-China hysteria. It walks hand in hand. There is a common destiny for the working class of the United States and the people of the world. It is the same struggle against the imperialists. And we have to beat that drum over and over and over again. There's no separation between the struggle. The struggle against Big Pharma is a struggle of the working class of the United States and a struggle of the people of the world. And the struggle, against the prison industrial complex and the struggle against police brutality is the struggle against U.S. imperialism. And it's the same state apparatus. It's the same big corporations and monopolies and banks. And you have to connect these struggles. And, if you're helping them take down Russia, how can you then protect the people of the United States? If you're helping them go after China, how can you protect the working families of the United States? If you're going to fight them here, you got to fight them over there, right? And that there's one global economy. There is one imperialist, monopolist system that is threatening the people of the world. There is an emerging alternative, the Belt and Road Initiative, One Belt, One Road Initiative, the Eurasian Economic Union, the Bolivarian alternative for Latin America. And we got to stand with that, right? And it's really important. Look, there's a reason that Nicaragua, Venezuela, Iran, the Houthis. There's a reason that they've all recognized the People's Republics of Donetsk and Lugansk. There's a reason for that, right? Because they understand the connection. We got to make that connection understood ourselves. We got to make that connection understood ourselves. Putin has insulated Russia's economy against sanctions. Well, yes, Russia will be able to withstand this. And first of all, they're not able to impose a full SWIFT ban, right? They're imposing a SWIFT ban on almost all the top Russian banks, but they're not banning Russia as a country from SWIFT. They were unable to do that. And yes, the Russian economy is strong. They're producing their own food right now. They have the biggest harvests they've ever had with state money and state resources. They've rebuilt the Russian farm system. Russia is increasing trade with China, and their economic relationship with China is expanding. But that said, we still have to oppose these sanctions. These sanctions will hurt people in Russia. It's not that Russia's not strong enough. They can't adjust to it. But, someone might be a big, strong man, and if you punch him in the face, it may not hurt him very much, but it's still wrong. And we still have to oppose these sanctions. And we can't pretend that these sanctions are not going to hurt people in some ways, and they will. And that's why they've got to be opposed. Sanctions are economic warfare. And they're going after my TV network right now. They're going after RT. They're going after and trying to silence RT because we criticize this, right? And they're trying to make sure that Western media has a monopoly on information right now. And so we got to stand against this, and we got to stand strong. And I'm in this. I'm in this for real. Come hell and high water, I'm in this for real. I'm not going anywhere. I'm an anti-imperialist till I die. I risked my life trying to get to Yemen to bring aid to the people of Yemen. I have dealt with stuff I probably can't talk about on here, but I've looked threats from the imperialists right in the face. I'll tell you that much. And I'm not giving in. I'm not throwing in the towel. Don't ask me questions like that, Charles, because I have no idea. I have no idea. Ask somebody who's there. Turn on Russian media. I have no idea, Charles. I have absolutely no idea. I'm in Manhattan near the UN headquarters. I am nowhere near there. So there you go. But you spelled it wrong. It's Kiev. That's how you spell it. You spelled it wrong there, Charles. But all right, on that note, folks, I apologize for it not being a very long stream because I'm a tired man. I'm working hard. But like I said, I'm not giving in, and neither should you. We got to stand strong. We are not going to give them an inch. We are not going to let them call this an invasion. We are going to stand strong against the imperialists. I'm a tired man, folks. So on that note, I'm going to conclude. A new upsurge in the struggle against U.S. imperialism is now emerging throughout the world. Ever since World War II, U.S. imperialism and its followers have been continuously launching wars of aggression. But the people of various countries have been continuously waging revolutionary wars to defeat their aggression. And while the danger of a new world war still exists, and the people of all countries must get prepared, revolution is the main trend in the world today. And while the danger of a new world war still exists, and the people of all countries must get prepared, revolution is the main trend in the world today. My God, has there ever been a night where our mantra, the way we end our streams, has been more true than that? I'm going to say it one more time because it's never been more true than tonight. A new upsurge in the struggle against U.S. imperialism is now emerging throughout the world. Damn right. Ever since World War II, U.S. imperialism and its followers have been continuously launching wars of aggression. But the people of various countries have been continuously waging revolutionary wars to defeat their aggression. And while the danger of a new world war still exists, and the people of all countries must get prepared, revolution is the main trend in the world today. Wow. Wow, folks. Think about those words very carefully as you hug your children and you say goodnight for today. We are on the right side of history in scary, scary times. Have a good night. Have a good night.